once again to Flocale Show, a show that informs, shares, and educates. Today we are going to look at a brief description of Visual Basic. And what is Visual Basic? Visual Basic is a high-level programming language which evolved from the earlier DOS version called BASIC. BASIC means beginner's all-purpose symbolic instruction code. It is fairly easy programming language to learn. The codes look a bit like English language, and different software companies produced different versions of BASIC, such as Microsoft QBasic, QuickBasic, GW Basic, IBM Basica, and so on. Visual Basic is a visual and event-driven programming language. These are the main divergences from the old BASIC. In BASIC, programming is done in a text-only environment, and the program is executed sequentially. In Visual Basic, programming is done in a graphical environment. And because users may click on certain objects randomly, so each object has to be programmed independently to be able to respond to those actions. And those actions, we call them events. Therefore, a Visual Basic program is made up of many subprograms, and each has its own program codes. And each can be executed independently, and at the same time, each can be linked together in one way or another. We now briefly look at the Visual Basic environment. If you are writing a program in Visual Basic, what environment would you expect? I want to have the simplest basic. Although we have Visual Basic .NET, I want us to have the very basic concepts regarding Visual Basic by use of Visual Basic 6.0. On startup, Visual Basic 6.0 will display the following dialog box as shown in the figure below. You can choose to start a new project, open an existing project, or select a list of recently opened programs. A project is a collection of files that make up your application. And there are various types of applications we could create. However, we shall concentrate on creating standard EXE programs. In other words, EXE means executable program. We now click on the standard EXE icon to go into the actual Visual Basic programming environment. So out of the options which we have to start projects, we are saying in our case we shall concentrate on standard EXE applications or executable applications. We have, of course, those other versions that we are not going to consider for this lesson now. The Visual Basic environment consists of the following: the blank form window, which you can design your application's interface. It also consists of the project window, which displays the files that are created in your application. And then it also has the properties window, which displays the properties of various controls and objects that are created in your applications. I would also want to confirm to you here that when it comes to the most recent developed Visual Basic .NET, these windows might not appear on the same window. We are likely to access, for example, properties from the menu bar when it comes to accessing these windows through Visual Basic .NET. But for the purposes of Visual Basic 6, all these windows will appear the moment you start up the first project. We then now look at a Visual Basic window. Whenever you are creating a Visual Basic program, you are always supposed to know how you navigate the Visual Basic window. In Visual Basic, a window, often referred to as a form, is the main building block of any graphical user interface. application. A form acts as a container for controls, allowing developers to design the layout, functionality, and appearance of the application. It represents the application's window or dialog box that the user interacts with directly. Then we shall look at the key components of a Visual Basic window, in our case, which is a form. We had already begun by saying that in Visual Basic program, we normally start with the designing of the application, whereby we create the first form. During this time, when you are designing the form, I have an example here. For example, I have a form which is designed to calculate the volume of a cylinder. So in this form, you notice that the name of the form here is given volume of cylinder. So you set this from the properties. This by default it was form 1. Then I'll need to know if it is a volume of a cylinder, what are the other requirements? There will be the base radius, there will be the height, and there will be volume. Now in this case, base radius, height, and volume, these are the labels. So I have to get 3 labels, one which I will rename base radius, another one height, and another one volume. Then I will also require 3 text boxes, one for inputting the base radius, another one for inputting the height, and then the other one for the output of the volume once the calculation is made. Then I will also require another control, that is a command button, which I will write a code to calculate the volume of the cylinder, upon which once I click on that command button, then it will link with the event handler and the calculation will be made, and then the volume will be output on the text box which is next to the volume. I hope we understand how these controls are working. So for my case here, I have 7 controls. I have 3 labels, that is base radius, height, and volume. I have 3 text boxes, one for inputting base radius, another one for inputting height, another one for outputting volume, and then I have a command button. Thank you, and continue viewing Flowkill Show, a show that informs, shares, and educates. The key components of a Visual Basic window, which is a form, are as follows. The first one is the title bar, located at the top of the window. The title bar displays the form's title as set by the text property. It also includes the minimize, maximize, and close buttons. The second component to a form is client area, the main area where controls like buttons, text boxes, and labels are placed. This area defines the layout of the application's user interface. Then that component of a form is the border, the edges around the window, which define the form's boundaries. The appearance of the border can be customized, that is fixed, sizable, or none, through the form border style property. Then we have the control box, and this provides the minimize, maximize, and close buttons on the title bar, controlled by the control box, minimize box, and maximize box properties. Then the other components that we have of a form is the menu bar, often added at the top of the client area. A menu bar is used to hold menu items like file, edit, and help. You can add menus to the form using the menu strip control. And then property number 6 is a toolbar and status bars. A toolbar provides quick access to actions, often displayed at the top, while a status bar at the bottom shows information about the application's current state. This can be added with the tool strip and status strip controls.